Name's Lewis Mitchell. I'm 33. Been driving a cab around Atlanta for the better part of a decade now. Started when I was 23, green as grass, barely knew downtown from midtown. I've seen the city change, swell with cranes and condos. Rich folks moving in, poor folks pushed out. The traffic got worse, but the people, they stayed about the same. Every day, I'd listen to their stories from the rear view. Affairs, firings, divorces, confessions spilled like loose change. Funny how you can hear 1,000 tales and never expect one of them to be your own. Until it is. Emily was 28. We met on a rainy Tuesday. I still remember how she looked standing outside Hartsfield-Jackson with a suitcase too big for her frame and a smile that didn't quite fit the weather. She tipped well, asked questions, laughed at my jokes even when I knew they weren't good. A month later, we were inseparable. People thought we were mismatched. Her with her literature degree and antique bookstore charm, me with my calloused palms and 10-hour shifts. But we worked. Real good at first. Love came easy, peaceful, like we were on the same page, even if we weren't reading the same book. We rented a small walk-up in Grant Park. I drove days. She worked part-time at the local library, and in the evenings we'd cook together. She'd hum Patsy Cline. I'd mess up the rice and pretend I meant to. We were building something brick by quiet brick. We had plans, get a mortgage one day, maybe in East Atlanta Village, fix up a porch swing, have a kid or two down the line. I wasn't rushing. Neither was she. At least, I thought she wasn't. Everything was just fine until Patricia moved 3 blocks away. Emily's mother. High heels in every room, a voice like a cold front, and a gaze that peeled back your confidence in layers. From day one, she made it clear I was a step down. Blue-collar ambition, she once called it, smiling like it was a compliment. I didn't bite. I'm not the kind of man who fights for approval. But it gnawed at me, how her visits became more frequent, how Emily started picking up her tone, her phrasing. Her mother's eyes, cold and sharp, started reflecting back at me and my wife. Dinners turned to debates. She'd ask when we were planning kids, say it like she was talking about planting tomatoes. "You're not getting any younger," Patricia said once, staring right through me. Emily laughed it off, squeezed my knee under the table like she was still on my side. But pressure like that? It's not just noise. It's a rhythm, a slow, insistent drum that wears you down over time. I tried to hold steady, focused on saving for that house, kept the cab running, pulled doubles when I could. I figured if I just worked a little harder, gave us more space, Patricia would back off. But she didn't. She moved in like mold in a bathroom corner, slow, quiet, and impossible to scrub out. And Emily started slipping. Late-night calls with her mom. Secret talks. Frowns she didn't explain. I'd come home to find her staring out the window like she was somewhere else. When I asked, she'd just shake her head. It's nothing, but it was something. I just didn't know how bad yet. And maybe I didn't want to know. You can tell yourself you're the man of the house, that love is enough, that people don't change, but they do. Or maybe they don't change, they just stop pretending. And that, right there, is where my story really begins. With her mother's eyes watching me across the table, like she already knew how it all would end. It was a backyard barbecue in Smyrna. Emily's cousin was graduating nursing school, and the whole clan came out. Folding chairs, red Solo cups, cornbread casserole, the whole Southern charm package. I was manning the grill, flipping chicken thighs, and doing my best to look like I belonged in the family that never quite welcomed me. Patricia watched from a distance, sipping her sweet tea like it had secrets. And then there was Anna, Emily's older sister, seated near the folding table with her husband John, the guy with gelled hair and a car that cost more than my yearly income. They looked polished, perfect brittle. That's when Patricia clinked her glass with a fork. The room, or the backyard, rather, quieted. I thought she was going to give some sweet toast to the graduate. Instead, she launched into a monologue about family legacy, about lineage, about carrying on the name. "We're a proud family," she said, her eyes on Anna, then Emily, than me, like a laser scanning a weak link. And when one part of us cannot give new life, we hope another will. The air got thick. Anna looked down at her plate. Emily's shoulders tensed beside me. Patricia kept going. We've had heartbreak. And I don't say this to shame anyone, but sometimes nature has its limits. She paused for drama, I guess. And that's why I pray Emily will be the one to restore what this family is missing. Nobody said a word. The graduate looked like she wanted to crawl under the cake table. Emily forced a smile. I stared at my plate. That was the moment it shifted. Not loud, not obvious, just the ground beneath me tilting ever so slightly. Emily didn't push back. She didn't roll her eyes or shoot me a look. She just accepted it. On the drive home, she was quiet. I asked if she was okay. She didn't mean it like that, she said, her voice low. But she didn't deny it. Didn't say her mom was out of line. She just sat there, hands folded in her lap like she was holding something she didn't want to drop. The sun was setting through the windshield, but it felt like midnight between us. The days after that crawled. Emily became more withdrawn, not cold, but distant, like her mind was somewhere else, and I didn't have the map. I caught her staring at nothing more often, fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug like she was circling something she couldn't name. I kept driving, fare after fare, face after face. But every night I'd come home, and she was a little further away. It was around then I noticed she'd stopped talking about the house. That little bungalow we'd been saving for in East Atlanta, the one we used to window shop online, picking out furniture we couldn't yet afford. She used to show me Zillow links over dinner. But now, silence. Like those dreams had been traded out for something else. One night, while folding laundry, I asked, "You still want to wait? For kids, I mean." She hesitated, just long enough to count. "I don't know anymore," she said. That hurt more than I expected. Because we had a plan. Not in stone, sure, but it was ours. And now it was like someone had redrawn it in ink while I was busy paying bills. Anna's name came up more too, subtle at first. Emily visiting her more often, texting her at night. I didn't think much of it. They were close. But behind every message was a shadow, something unspoken. And I started feeling like an outsider in my own marriage. Patricia's words echoed more than they should have. Maybe because they weren't just words, they were marching orders. And it couldn't carry, so Emily had to. And me? I was just supposed to go along with it. Play my part. Produce the grandchild. No questions. Funny thing about pressure, it doesn't make people stronger. It just shows you where the cracks already are. And I started seeing them. In our conversations. In our quiet. In the way Emily stopped looking me in the eyes when she said, "I love you." She said it like a habit, and I felt it like a warning. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of day that starts slow, with coffee and old Motown humming in the background. Emily was in the kitchen, barefoot, flipping through a cookbook she'd barely touched in months. I remember thinking, maybe things are turning. Maybe the worst of the pressure's passed. But life doesn't send warnings before it pulls the rug out. Anna was in a car accident that afternoon. Head-on collision near Marietta Street. A distracted driver ran a red light and plowed into her on the driver's side. It wasn't fatal, thank God, but it was serious. Broken leg, shattered wrist, 3 cracked ribs. They had to cut her out of the vehicle. John was a mess on the phone, voice shaking, asking if Emily could meet him at the hospital. She left in a rush. No makeup, slippers, her hoodie half-zipped. She didn't even take her purse. And I just stood there at the doorway, watching the taillights fade, holding a half-finished sandwich in my hand. That's how quick things change. One moment, you're building normal. The next, you're just left standing in the quiet. The days after were a blur of hospital visits and family calls. Emily spent more nights at Anna's place than at ours. Said she was helping John, helping her sister adjust, helping with recovery. I didn't argue. How could I? Anna couldn't lift a fork, much less take care of herself. But something about it started to feel off. John and Emily, always in the same room, always making plans. Groceries, rehab appointments, remodeling the guest bedroom to make it more accessible. She said it like it was hers now. And maybe it was. The worst part, I didn't know what I was allowed to feel. Guilt? For thinking suspicious things about my wife during her sister's crisis? Jealousy? Of a man who just watched his world almost fall apart? One night, I drove past Anna's without meaning to. Just found myself on that street. Headlights off, windows cracked. Emily's car was in the driveway. John's too. Lights on inside, late. I don't know what I was expecting. To catch them in something? To prove my gut wasn't paranoid? Instead, I sat there, in the dark, feeling like a stranger parked outside someone else's life. Back home, I found Patricia sitting at our kitchen table. She'd let herself in. Again, said she came to check on me, as if that were ever her style. What she really came to do was talk. Anna can't have children now, she said, her voice steady, like she was reporting the weather. The injuries, they made things worse. I nodded slowly. That's awful. She looked up direct, which means Emily has to step up, now more than ever. There it was. No sugar, no metifers. Just the edict, laid bare on the table like it was already fact. I asked her to leave. She did, but not before saying, "You need to decide what kind of man you're going to be in this family, Lewis." That's the moment I started realizing maybe I wasn't part of this family at all. Just a placeholder. A warm seat until the real plan kicked in. I sat at that table long after she left, staring at my hands, thinking about Anna, about John, about Emily, and how none of them had asked what I wanted. Didn't seem to matter anymore. I always thought the worst betrayals came with shouting, with slammed doors and thrown glasses. But no, the worst ones come soft, wrapped in smiles, served with tea. They make you feel like maybe you're the one overreacting. It was a Wednesday night. I'd just come off a 13-hour shift running airport fares back and forth from Hartsfield. My shoulders were stiff, my back sore. I wanted nothing but dinner and quiet. Instead, I walked into what felt like a courtroom. Patricia was already there, seated like she owned the place. Emily sat beside her, posture too straight, lips tight. John stood by the kitchen island, eyes low, and behind them, like a damn audience, a few of Emily's cousins and that aunt who never liked me. It wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. I didn't speak first. No one offered me food or a chair. Patricia cleared her throat. "We've been talking, Lewis," she said, like that was supposed to comfort me. Emily wouldn't meet my eyes. John did, just briefly. Enough for me to know something ugly was coming. Patricia continued. Anna's recovery will be long, complicated. And now, her hopes of becoming a mother are gone. That's devastating. For her. For all of us. I nodded slowly, still trying to understand what this had to do with me. "I am sorry. I truly am. But," she cut me off, "that's why we need to look at options. You and Emily, you have the health, the stability, and the opportunity to help this family heal." The room felt like it was shrinking. And then she said it. Emily will conceive a child. With John. So the bloodline remains whole. It landed like a slap. Not even an ounce of shame in her voice. Like she was reading from a grocery list. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain refused to accept it as real. I looked at Emily. Finally, she met my eyes. Hers were wet, unsure. But she didn't say no. "You've lost your mind," I said. "All of you." Emily whispered, "It's just for the baby. It's not about us." That hurt worse than anything. Not about us. There was no us if that idea could live in her head. John stayed silent. That coward. Standing there like some pawn in Patricia's chess game. I didn't punch him yet. I wanted to. My fists ached for it. But I needed to hear her say it. "Is that what you want?" I asked Emily. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then she nodded just once. And that's when I snapped. I grabbed John by the collar and slammed him into the pantry door. "You touch my wife, I swear." People screamed. Patricia shouted. Someone tried to pull me back. But John didn't swing. He just muttered, "It's not like I want this either." That didn't help. I told them to get out. All of them. Emily hesitated. I didn't look at her. Couldn't. Once the door slammed shut, I stood there, fists still clenched, breathing like I'd run 10 miles. And in the silence, one thing settled deep inside me. Whatever this was, it wasn't love anymore. It was something else entirely. Something I wasn't going to be part of. I used to think betrayal had a sound. A door slamming, glass breaking, tires screeching down the street. But it turns out it's silent. It comes in the form of a folded note on the kitchen table. 10 lines, written in Emily's handwriting, shaking just enough to make you wonder if she cried when she wrote it. I read it once, then again, and then I stopped counting. She was gone, left with John. Said it was temporary. Said it was for the greater good. Said she hoped I'd understand one day. We'll still be together, she wrote. Once it's done. Once it's done. Like our marriage was a favor, she had a pause. Like the life we built was something she could just press pause on while she did what? Made a child with her sister's husband? I stood in the hallway for what felt like hours. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Every room smelled like her. Her perfume still clinging to the hallway. Her shoes by the front door. Her damn teacup on the windowsill. Half full and already cold. I didn't touch anything. I just sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the nightstand where her ring used to be. She took it with her. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up sometime before dawn, heart pounding, unsure if I'd dreamed any of it. The note was still there. No dream. No misunderstanding. Just facts, cold and dry on paper. I didn't call her. What was there to say? Please come home. No. That man, the begging one, he died somewhere between the moment I read her last sentence and the moment my heart stopped trying to make sense of it. The next day, I packed a bag. Just the essentials. Clothes. My passport. A photograph in the early days. Her on my lap in Piedmont Park, laughing into my neck. I took it without knowing why. Maybe to remind myself it had been real. Maybe to remind myself never to fall for that kind of illusion again. I walked out of that apartment without slamming the door. Just closed it gently, like I was leaving a house I'd never return to. I didn't look back. I stayed the night in a Motel 6 off I-285. Ate gas station pizza. Watched a rerun of Wheel of Fortune with the volume low. It was surreal, like my life had become background noise in someone else's show. Emily texted me once. Just one line, "I hope you're okay." I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it, because I wasn't okay, and I wasn't going to pretend to be, but I also wasn't going to chase someone who could walk away that easy. Whatever this chapter was, it was over, and I was about to start writing a new one. Alone. I don't remember the drive out of Atlanta. Just the gray ribbon of I-20 stretching west like it had swallowed my thoughts whole. Somewhere near Birmingham, I realized I'd been holding the wheel too tight. Knuckles white, shoulders stiff, radio off. Not even the wind for company. I wasn't running away. Not exactly. I was erasing something. A life, a name, a version of me that had stayed too long at a table where the meal had already turned cold. It wasn't the plan. It was just far enough. Far enough from the wedding china still boxed in that hallway closet. Far enough from Patricia's perfume and John's cowardly eyes. Far enough from Emily's voice echoing in that note like she expected me to wait with open arms when she got back. But A had space. Smoggy air, yes. Endless freeways, yes. But also anonymity. Nobody asked where I came from, and nobody cared. You disappear into a city like that. One yellow cab among thousands. I started driving again within a week. Found work with a rideshare outfit based out of Inglewood. Kept my head down. 12-hour shifts, back seat stories that didn't belong to me. I liked it that way. I rented a studio apartment in Koreatown. One window, no table, bed, shower, kettle. That was it. I kept it clean, maybe cleaner than I needed to, like I was trying to make up for all the mess I left behind. Nights were hard, though. Real quiet. And it's in the quiet where memories creep. Where you remember her laughter in the grocery store. Her wet hair on your pillow. The feel of her hand on your thigh during red lights. Little things. Cruel things now. The divorce papers took 3 weeks to draft. I worked with a guy named Carver, lawyer who used to drive cabs himself, believe it or not. Didn't ask too many questions. Just nodded, read the notes, and said, "You sure you want to burn the bridge all the way down?" I said, "The bridge ain't there anymore." Emily hadn't filed yet. I beat her to it. I wanted that in the record. That I left. That I drew the line. Not her. Not her mother. Me. I changed my number. Got rid of her joint bank account. Sold my half of the furniture. Well, what I'd taken with me. Most of it I left behind. Let the ghosts keep the couch. Let her sleep on whatever sheets she made her choices on. It took time, but the ache turned dull, like a bruise that doesn't fade but stops throbbing. I didn't stop thinking about her. I just stopped thinking of her as mine. Carver called one day to say she'd responded. Didn't contest a thing, he said. Signed and sent. You'll be free in 30 days. Free. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like ashes in my throat. I started jogging. Bought new boots. Learned to cook for one. Spoke less. Slept light. Watched the city change colors from the rooftop of the building. Every sunset a little different, but always distant. One night, I found myself standing in front of a church off Sunset. Not for God. I'd stopped praying sometime around the time she left, but for quiet. I went inside, sat in the back pew. A woman 3 rows up was crying softly. I didn't ask why. I just sat there with her pain. It felt familiar. Later that week, I threw out the photo from Piedmont Park. No big ceremony. Just the trash chute and a deep breath. Gone means gone. And I was done keeping room for people who left without looking back. It started with a voicemail I didn't recognize. Just a missed call, no name, Atlanta area code. I stood there staring at it for a minute, thumb hovering over the play button. I almost deleted it. Almost. But curiosity's a quiet devil. So I hit play. It was Emily. Her voice sounded dry, tired, like someone who'd been crying but hadn't stopped long enough to catch her breath. "Louis, I'm sorry," she said. Long pause. "It didn't work the way we thought. The way I thought. I need to talk to you." I didn't need details. I already knew. The next day, I got the full picture through a mutual friend who still hadn't unfollowed her. Turns out Emily had gotten pregnant. John's baby. But there were complications. Bad ones. Late miscarriage, maybe preeclampsia, no one was saying much. But the real blow? They told her she wouldn't be able to have children anymore. Ever. It's strange what you feel when someone who wronged you ends up broken. Some part of you wants to comfort. Some part wants to scream. See? This is what betrayal gets you. And then there's a third part, the one I didn't expect, that just goes still. Hollow. Because this was never the ending I wanted. Not even after all of it. I stared at my phone for hours that night. Every time it buzzed, I expected it to be her again. It wasn't. Just credit alerts and spam calls and a text from Carver confirming the divorce will be finalized next week. The silence was louder than any apology could have been. A week later, the letter came. Real paper. My name on the envelope in handwriting I'd memorized. Inside, 4 pages. Scribbled, crossed out, rewritten. The kind of letter you only write when shame's finally louder than pride. She told me everything. How Patricia pushed her. How the idea of saving the family twisted into something that didn't feel real until it already was. How John didn't love her, and she didn't love him. How it all came crashing down the night she lost the baby. How Anna hasn't spoken to her since. Apparently, after the miscarriage, Patricia changed her tune. Started saying God had a plan. Started hinting that maybe Emily wasn't meant to be a mother after all. The same woman who once judged me for not wanting kids right away was now turning her back on her own daughter. Classic. Emily wrote that she hadn't gone home in days. She was sleeping at a friend's, trying to avoid John, who, she claimed, had been distant since the hospital. She didn't know what she expected from me. Forgiveness, maybe. Closure. I thought this would bring us closer in some strange way. I thought if I gave them what they wanted, we'd still be okay after. I was wrong. So wrong. I read that line twice. Still didn't call her. Instead, I folded the letter back up and slid it into a drawer with some old receipts and a broken watch. Not thrown out, but buried, like a name on a gravestone I no longer visit. Some things you don't forgive. Not because you can't, but because doing so would mean betraying yourself all over again. That weekend, I went to Venice Beach. Just wandered, watched the skateboarders and street drummers and lovers holding hands like gravity had chosen them alone. I bought a funnel cake, ate it on a bench, let the sun burn the tip of my nose. And for a brief second, I felt like someone else, someone unburdened. Then I walked back to my car, sat down, and stared at the steering wheel until the sky turned pink. She'd lost everything, and I didn't feel triumph, just empty. Because when you spend that much time loving someone, watching them break, even if they broke themselves, never feels like a win. It just feels like grief you don't get to share. When I finally signed the divorce papers, it wasn't some dramatic moment. No thunder, no tears. Just a Tuesday morning at Carver's office in Westwood. The receptionist handed me a pen. I scratched my name on 3 dotted lines, and that was it. 7 years of memories, sealed in an envelope, marked final. Carver gave me a nod. "You want a copy?" he asked. I said no. What was I going to do with it? Frame it. After I left, I didn't go home. Took the long way down La Cienega. Let the sun creep in through the driver's side window. I ended up at a mechanic's lot in Culver City, where I'd seen a cherry-red 1987 El Camino for sale 2 weeks back. Didn't know why I'd stopped there, not really. Maybe because I needed something new to take care of. Something that didn't lie to me or ask me to be anything other than what I was. The guy gave me a fair deal. Told me it needed a little love, but the engine purred. "It's yours now," he said, dropping the keys into my palm. Felt good. Solid. Clean. I drove it out to the coast that night, windows down, wind in my ears like the world was finally making space for me again. It didn't feel like starting over. It felt like starting true. I got back into routines. Up early. Run 5 miles. Eggs, black coffee, no toast. Drive from 10 to 10. Small talk with strangers. A city full of lives I'd never know. I like that. I like being unknown. Emily tried once more, a second letter. This time shorter. 2 pages. "I'm not asking for anything," she wrote. "Just wanted you to know I think about you every day." I didn't reply. I didn't even finish reading it. I burned it in an old metal tray I kept on the balcony. Watched it curl and disappear like it never existed. You can't stitch something back together if the fabric's already rotted. And I wasn't going to spend another year of my life trying to forgive what never should have been asked of me. Some nights, I'd still hear her in my head. The good parts. Her laugh when I'd mess up pancakes. Her singing in the shower. That one night in Chattanooga when she said, "You're the safest place I've ever known." But memory lies, and love without loyalty is just nostalgia in disguise. So I let it fade. I deleted the last photos of us from my phone. Changed the emergency contact on my driver's profile. Took her off my insurance. All the quiet edits you make to remove someone from your life without making a scene. That's the thing about real endings. They don't always crash. Sometimes they just stop, and you learn to breathe in the silence they leave behind. Not with pain, with peace. They say time heals all wounds. I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you how to carry things differently. Like moving a box that's too heavy, you figure out a grip that doesn't break your back. And then you just keep walking. I kept walking. A year had passed since the divorce finalized when I saw her name again. Not in a message, not in a call. It was on a mutual friend's Instagram. A baby photo. Not hers. Someone else's. But tagged at Emily. El Michel. The name's still there, like a shadow she hadn't fully shaken. No photo of her, just a comment beneath. Life moves strange. Yeah, bet it does. I didn't click, didn't scroll. I just stared at it like an echo from a different life, then put the phone down and went back to slicing onions for the chili I'd been making. My apartment smelled like garlic and cumin. The El Camino sat out front, still running strong. My plants hadn't died yet. Little signs I was still living, still building. Some nights, I still catch myself checking the lock twice, like I'm waiting for her key in the door. Habit's a ghost that sticks around long after the haunting ends. And sometimes when I drive, I still glance at the passenger seat when a love song comes on. But it's always empty. Sometimes I think about what might have been. The alternate universe where we never let her mother get between us. Where we waited, bought the house, had a child when we were ready. Not out of guilt, not for a legacy, just out of love. But I don't stay there long. You can't. It's like staring too long into headlights. You'll forget where you're going. One night, I picked up a fair, older man, suit too big, smelled like bourbon and old grief. He talked about his ex-wife all the way to Santa Monica. Said he still loved her after 20 years. Said he hoped she was happy, even if she ruined him. I nodded, didn't say much. Dropped him off and watched him shuffle to his apartment. And for a second, I felt it. That fear. That maybe I'd never love again, not like that. That maybe I was just going to drift through the rest of my life, collecting conversations from the back seat. Fasazide Furgit, names that never stuck. Maybe my heart had grown too callous to hold something tender again. But then the sun rose again. It always does, even over the wreckage. And somewhere between the 405 and the 10, I started humming along to the radio. Old Springsteen track. Something about losing it all and still dancing in the dark. I smiled, because maybe that's what healing really is, not forgetting. But singing anyway. I took the long way home that night, stopped by the pier, and bought myself a coffee from a truck that had seen better days. Watched teenagers skateboard under flickering lights. Watched couples argue and make up in the same breath. Watched life unfold, chaotic, messy, beautiful, and realized it kept moving whether I liked it or not. And that's when I understood closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you decide to take. And I'd finally taken mine. It came quietly, the realization that I didn't owe her anything anymore. Not a response, not a prayer, not even hate. I used to think I needed some grand moment, some final confrontation to feel whole again. But healing, it turns out, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet morning where you wake up, stretch, and realize you didn't dream about her. Sometimes it's just that simple. Forgiveness isn't always about mercy. Sometimes it's about walking away clean, not dragging the pain behind you like a chain, not letting the memory rot your joy. It's not saying what happened was okay. It's saying it no longer owns you. I was sitting at a cafe on Fairfax, sipping a bitter espresso, watching people pass by, all of them carrying their own little storms, when I wrote the last letter. Didn't plan it, didn't rehearse it, just pulled a receipt from my wallet, flipped it over, and let the words spill. Not for her, for me. Emily, I loved you. I still believe we had something beautiful once. But what you did broke something I can't fix. And I won't spend the rest of my life holding space for a woman who treated love like a transaction. I hope you find peace, but I won't be part of your healing. Goodbye. I didn't send it, just folded it and dropped it in a public mailbox on Melrose, knowing it'd get lost. That was the point. Let the goodbye vanish like smoke. Let it belong to no one. Just float out into the world and disappear. A month later, I changed my name. Not legally, not yet, but on the rideshare app, on my socials, on everything that mattered. No more Lewis Mitchell. Just loose, simple, clean. People ask where I'm from. I say here and there. They ask what brought me to LA. I say fresh air. And it's true in a way. Grief had a chokehold on me once. Now I breathe easy. I started seeing someone. Nothing serious. A girl who works at the vinyl shop on Sunset. She smells like lavender and laughs like she's not afraid of joy. We don't talk about the past. Not yet. But we dance in her kitchen while pasta boils and records skip. We burn toast and laugh about it. She holds my hand like it's the most natural thing in the world. And for now, that's enough. I still get quiet sometimes. Still have those evenings when the world feels too still and memories creep in like fog under a door. But it doesn't unmake me anymore. It doesn't pull me under. I've learned that heartbreak doesn't make you less worthy. It just sharpens the lens, shows you what matters, what doesn't, and who you've become through it all. I don't know what comes next. I'm not in a rush to find out. But I do know this. I was loyal. I was honest. I stayed when most would have run. I gave love even when it hurt. And when the time came, I chose myself. Not out of ego, out of survival, out of clarity. Some people will hear my story and call me cold. Let them. Because the truth is, I gave everything until there was nothing left but me. And that man, he finally came home. Not to a place, not to a person, to himself.